Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Lendra. Welcome to this special edition podcast of Nurses with Voices for the Nurse Shift Change series. I have some special guests for you tonight. And if you hear Rosie in the background, you know Rosie just always just likes to hang out with me. But I am bringing on tonight, I have Dr. Michelle Nelson, Dr. Roberto Roman, Dr. Lindsay Harris, and we're really going to be talking about this nurse shift change movement. Now, you may or may not have heard about it, but that's where we're going. Well, you should have heard about it because when we talked with Adrian, we talked with Dr. Roberto Roman, we talked with Dr. Sharon Goldfarb, and we're really just diving deep into this conversation because it's such an important conversation. And I'm going to bring on Michelle Nelson, Dr. Michelle Nelson first, right? And just so that she can do a brief introduction and let you know who she is and why this movement is important to her.
Well, good evening.
Hello, and welcome. Why don't you, so I just introduced what we're going to be talking about. Why don't you introduce yourself and I'll bring on Dr. Roberto, and Dr. Lindsay as well.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, Dr. Lendra, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to join this evening to talk about what I love the most, which is healthcare, access to healthcare, advocacy, and knowing how to get what you need from the healthcare system. My name is Dr. Michelle Nelson, and I am the proud Director of Graduate Programs at the Clayton State University in Morrow, Georgia. I'm a nurse of 30-something years, a long time. I am a nurse practitioner, a family nurse practitioner of 24 years. I have been an academician for about 18 years now. I am an author. I am a motivational speaker. I am a researcher. I am a leader. The list is going on and on and on. But what I want you to know most about me is that I am a registered nurse who is a proud advocate for healthcare. And I am so excited to be delving into a multiplicity of topics with you this evening. So let's get going.
Dr. Lindsay, thank you for joining us. Why don't you go ahead and give a brief introduction, and then I'll bring on Dr. Roman right after you.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for this opportunity. So I am Dr. Lindsay Harris. I am a family nurse practitioner, but I am also, as Dr. Nelson mentioned, just a lover of the profession of nursing. And this topic is so important for us. I am also in academia as well, and I teach health policy, but I'm so excited to get started and get into the conversation.
All right, and here we have Dr. Roberto Roman. So we had such a good time on our solo episode, and love everything that you mentioned. I mean, the listeners are so tuned in. They're still listening. I've put some reels up on TikTok, so head over to Nurses with Voices podcast TikTok channel and definitely listen to our conversation because it was so rich and we're just really adding to the discussion. But go ahead and just do it. I know they already know you, but go ahead and do a brief introduction.
Well, I love
and that way we can segue into our conversation tonight.
Yes. Love being here with all of you. Just to quickly summarize, nurse scientist, chief innovation officer, professor, former provost, co-chair for policy for DNPs of color, and on the committee for the Nurses Shift Change. So just excited to be here with all of you and carry on this conversation live.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about. Someone just said, that's my friend, come through, Dr. Roman. He is about to come through. And listen, that's what it's about. And that's why we're here. We're here to talk about nurse shift change. And I know the listeners they know my, if you listen to Nurses with Voices podcast, I'm I don't pull any punches when it comes to the political views and what's happening with healthcare right now. And we all formed and came together for, humanities, ethics, social justice, and the science. And I want you guys to talk about a little bit about where, from a legislative perspective, what your points of views are professionally, and how you think we can shift change, and why you think this movement is so important as we gear up for the rally on May 24th. And Dr. Nelson, I think I'll start with you. How about that?
Yes. So I think that I'm still in shock, as so many people are, over the swift changes that we have seen over the past couple of months that are really having some dire consequences for the individuals that we've been charged to serve. It is a very difficult position that we are in, particularly for those of us who are in academia, who are having our voices muted, to not be able to talk about various issues like diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice, vulnerable groups that really deserve the most focus when it comes to healthcare. I live in the state of Georgia that has the distinct designation of being one of the states that has some of the poorest healthcare outcomes. We are 50th when it comes to maternal mortality. We are 50th when it comes to access to mental health services. And we just excel at being in the bottom 10th for the most, the major healthcare indicators. It is a difficult position that we find ourselves in. However, the core of nursing is caring. This is what nursing has been built on, caring for everyone. And the national bodies that govern our ability to teach the profession that we love so much, they have been very determined in making sure that we're still including in our curriculum the ability to deal with cultural competence, cultural humility, and it is so important. And so I think a lot of people, myself included, as much as I know about healthcare, I think we're all in the same boat trying to figure out what our North Star is, where we're looking to be able to determine how to move forward. And that is why forums like tonight are so important, because only us can save us. I can't hear you, Dr. Lindra.
Sorry about that. I like how you say that, and I think that's so important. It's only us can save us. It's similar to you choosing you, right? Making that decision. Like, you have two choices. So you can save yourself, or you can stay in a situation and stay silent. And one thing that we have learned is staying silent helps no one, and it actually fosters the situation. And Dr. Harris, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on why this movement is so important.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just really echo on what Dr. Nelson said. But one thing I will also say is that, especially as nurses, we are often taught to serve. We're often taught, especially, us nurses like that are at the bedside, we're often taught to and to take orders, right, from, advanced practice providers, from just providers in general. And we're often taught to advocate for our patients. But one of the things that we're not taught in academia or even in the workplace is to advocate for ourselves. And this movement, this opportunity that we have right now, today, not tomorrow, not this second, is really to understand who we are as a profession. I think we often forget as a profession that we are the largest workforce in healthcare. And if there were no nurses, there would be no healthcare. And I really don't think that we as nurses truly understand that. And so once we start changing our mindset of who we are, the power that we have, and the value that we bring to the nursing profession and to healthcare in general, I think that our mindset will change. I think that we would have a greater voice to be able to advocate, for ourselves, but not only for ourselves, but those that we serve. One of the things I love about the profession of nursing is, and Glenn E. Martin, I saw this on LinkedIn. Glenn E. Martin said, those that are closest to the problem are closest to the solution. And there's a part B to that, but that is very important. That portion is very important to me, because I feel like as nurses, we're there from beginning to end. And we are closest to the problem. We understand how to solve problems. So it's so important for us to be involved in every aspect, really, of life, business, anything that we do. Health transcends, or health really is intertwined in everything that we do in life. So I think for us right now, what we have to do is learn to value, know who we are, and really stand on that.
I love that. I completely love that. I think when you think about, and I can appreciate you. Well, let me say this. I can appreciate you sharing the being a part of the solution. So it's interesting and it's poetic that a lot of what's happening right now is, don't say DEI, right? It's related to the lack of diversity. And there's a bias framework that I always like to share, right? So we talk about DEI and bias. And one of the things that B stands for is being a part of the solution, right? And not the problem. So when we see a problem, how can you be a part of that solution? So thank you for sharing that, because it's so true. We have to be able, we can't just, and one thing I love about this committee, we see a problem and we're trying to be a part of the solution, and we want people to join us in this movement so that we all can collectively, from what I'm hearing that you're saying, we need to collectively stand together as a profession to be able to really shift change. And Dr. Roman, I'll let you go ahead and really share your thoughts on that piece, and really carry over to talk about how the legislation piece of it, how that's affected, or how that's affecting what we're going through right now in healthcare.
So to echo what was said, and just to kind of emphasize, not only are we the largest component or workforce in healthcare, we've been the most trusted for many years. And we have to take that to heart, understand the power of what that carries. But within nursing, we do unfortunately function out of silos. Nurses are touching every corner of healthcare. You talk about rural health, community health, acute care, emergency care. We're everywhere, right? And this movement that we're talking about is uniting all these voices to help tackle what we're seeing and facing in our current time right now. So being able to essentially make sure we don't slip into the dark ages, because we're seeing right now in legislation a lot of undoing, a lot of harm that's coming through. Just a few hours ago, for instance, the 988 Suicide Health Crisis Line for LGBT youth is on the chopping block in budget cuts. So we're looking at a service that gets over 2,000 calls a day being cut. And what does that mean? That means lives of our future generations. So we have to be in tune to the legislature and what's going on, understand how it impacts every corner of the communities we touch, and try to come forward and advocate and be the voice of reason to say, hold on, slow down. Let's look at what's happening and make sure that we're not cutting resources that's going to make our outcomes in Florida, in Georgia, throughout the entire US and globally. We have a global impact here, worse. So this is where this movement is coming in, that we can amplify the voices of the 4 to 5 million nurses in the US to really have a powerful impact on what we need healthcare to look like.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And, Dr. Nelson, I would love to hear your perspective legislatively. And before that, didn't you just win a seat? Talk a little about what just happened with you, and how will you use this role to help to shift change? You're on mute.
I'm excited and over the moon. I have been elected to be the region director, the Region 11 director for the American Association of Nurse Practitioners. And so my territory will cover Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. That is so incredibly important, particularly from my state of Georgia, where we really have not had recent leadership come out of our state. That gives me an opportunity to create a platform that highlights the barriers in the state of Georgia, to highlight the poor healthcare outcomes, to highlight the legislative missteps that have occurred, particularly when it comes to advanced practice nurses and nurses at large, and to highlight how Georgia can be the litmus test on how you can come from the bottom and rise to the top. And so before I'm even able to assume my new position, I have already put together a laundry list of initiatives that have already been rolled out in the state of Georgia that will be able to serve the region and the nation very well. Those initiatives focus on removal of barriers to advanced practice nurses being able to practice at the highest levels of their education, their training, their certification, their licensure, and really and truly, the legislation that we fight for on behalf of advanced practice nurses is really not about advanced practice nurses. This legislation that all of our guests are talking about tonight and we'll talk about is really designed to meet the needs of Georgians, to meet the needs of the entire Southeast, to meet the needs of the entire nation. And so legislatively here in Georgia, before I assumed my roles, we had not had any legislation passed on behalf of advanced practice nurses in over 15 years. Over the past couple of years, we have been on a roll and we are marching towards full practice authority, which is going to allow us to deliver optimal healthcare with optimal outcomes for the individuals that need it most, particularly in our rural areas.
Well, I'm interested in knowing what your thoughts are. And Dr. Harris, I'll pose this question to you. Now, from my perspective, we all know, right? One of the reasons why we formed is because we see all of these dismantling of all of these. I don't even want to say the executive orders, but yes, executive orders, but the dismantling of the government, the dismantling of healthcare, health and human services, 10,000 people getting laid off. How does this affect the everyday person? How does this affect not only healthcare, but how does this affect how we're able to treat and care for that everyday person? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it definitely is going to touch everyone. Let's take, I serve on a committee for the Friends of the National Institute of Nursing Research. So let's talk about research in academia right now. Or just and not even in nursing, just in general. When we talk about research, one of the things that we understand is that research identifies new knowledge. And one of the things that this is going to affect as far as our general population, is those that we are trying to help within our communities. So if there's no research dollars that are being allocated towards different communities, then we don't find, or we can't identify new resolves, I guess, for just the issues that we have in our community. So that is going to impact it. We also understand that Medicaid is being impacted. So many of our patients that we serve may not have or may lose access to care via not having coverage. So we know that that's going to impact it. So we also know that there's just so many things, just the funding, so many fundings, the education, living in the state of Alabama as it relates to education. One of the things, with the possibly looking at the Board of Education, and I know that many people are being laid off and let go at this moment, as far as looking at those with disabilities within education and those school systems that need additional funding. We are not sure how that money or that funding is going to be allocated, and is it going to be allocated equitably? So there's just so many things that's going to touch us every single day. We're looking at the market right now at this point, and what the market is looking like. So there's so many things. We really can talk about it, and it's in the news constantly of how not only just us as providers and those who are providing the care, but how it's going to really touch the individual as well.
And I can appreciate how you mentioned how it's in the news, because we're taking away so much funding, right? We're sending people to space. We got money to do that. But we're dismantling all parts of the government. We're taking away all of this funding. But then we're willing to pay women $5,000 to have babies. But you won't allow, you're paying them $5,000 to have babies, but you're firing Health and Human Services. And there's so many things that I want to say, and I'm trying to find the politically correct way to say it. So just help me out, Dr. Roman, because I don't want to speak out of turn, because it's frustrating, right? Is you really can't provide the care you want to provide. And when you see the writing on the wall, and when you see what's going on, when you see like DEI being weaponized, and when you see all of the foolishness that's happening in the government, and I think, and Dr. Roman, we talked about this. We talked about how when people are saying, well, I have a problem with DEI anyway. Why? So again, that speaks to you and your character. But how is it happening, and what's happening in your state, or even within your community? Go ahead.
It's frustrating. That's the easiest, simplest way to put it, that it's frustrating. But when we look at what's going on, and we're right now, the disparities are going to get significantly worse. When you look at the FDA is not testing milk right now, while we have a bird flu epidemic going on, we can't protect the community. So where are they going to end up? They're going to end up in the ERs. They're going to end up in the hospitals. They're going to end up missing work. And what is the recommendation? Oh, buy organic, buy higher quality stuff. Who does that disenfranchise? Low socioeconomic communities. So it's going to make things worse. And, in Florida, we're seeing a lot of censorship, actually throughout the US. When we're talking about funding, going back to Dr. Harris's comment too, seeing funding stripped from research, and the public might not understand the magnitude of what this research means. Even immigration. Right now, we're hearing about the Harvard scientist that is in a detention center for immigration, who was on the brink of finding or breaking down the code for cancer specific to her specialty research. She's one of the only few people that can read the microscopes that are powered to do this. And she's been in detention for 2 months. We are going back into the dark ages. We're slipping behind in science. and we might not see it right now. It's going to be a huge delay, and we're going to see a gap in the future of healthcare science. Even with scientists, I have colleagues that have lost their F-31 grants, their R01 grants that fund academic research. That now means we're going to have a gap of a generation of scientists in a few years, because this is funding that helps prepare the future of scientists. And that's the part that just, I wish I can like scream at the top of my lungs, that we're doing a disservice now that we might not appreciate, or the public might not appreciate now until it's too late.
And that's the point. It's you until it really starts to hit home. Sometimes we don't realize, and I don't know if people realize why we're so passionate about this movement, why we're having conversations like the conversations we're having tonight. I mean, it is starting to hit people in their pockets, though, because, just like when we talked about, look at what's happening in the market, right? And we're creating trade wars, basically, is what's happening right now. So all of these things are starting to hit home financially. And look, and healthcare is like the highest expenditure. We have all of these other countries, they have these universal healthcare policies, and the United States does not. Now, share your perspective. I'm interested in knowing what your thoughts are about healthcare and the cost of healthcare, how things are going to get worse, and just bring it home. And I know it's a loaded question, but I just want to hear each of your thoughts. Bring it home as to why the movement, and joining us for the rally, right? Not just for the rally, but again, the movement is so important because it's affecting our pockets, our bottom lines, and it's ultimately going to also affect the future of healthcare. So talk a little bit about that. And Dr. Nelson, I'll just go right back around and start with you.
So, when I speak public speaking, I share with people, I believe that we're in the middle of our own civil rights movement. Just as African Americans had a civil rights movement decades ago, here we are as nurses and healthcare. We are in the middle of our own civil rights movement. And that, a lot of this sounds like doom and gloom. It is terrible. People have lost their lives, will lose their lives, losing livelihoods, losing hard-earned money. It is so easy to despair. But I want people to be encouraged in one thing, that when you have deep, dark, hard times like this, it forces us to be resilient and to make opportunities. Okay, making a way when there is no way. This is what we have. We've been here since the beginning, well before the days of Florence Nightingale, and we will be here till the bitter end. Trust me when I tell you. And we are the ones that are at the bedside, from the womb to the tomb. So we may not have a North Star right now, and things look terrible when it comes to our ability to do our research. But I want to challenge everyone tonight. And I want you to hear me, because this is a rallying cry. The Nurses Shift Change movement is one that is going to give us an opportunity to come together. As Dr. Harris said earlier, we have been functioning in silos. It is time for that to be over. We need to come together. We need to support each other, and we need to be outward facing, not aiming our firepower at each other, but outward facing, doing what we do best, which is delivering people to their optimal level of healthcare and functioning. We need you to join the Nurses Shift Change movement. This is your call to action. So when I say the civil rights movement, it might sound very loaded, but this is exactly where we are today. But together, we can turn healthcare around, and we will. Nurses will save healthcare.
I love that. You are absolutely right. This is a call to action, and nurses will change. We will save healthcare. And Dr. Harris, I'm curious to hear, your perspective on it.
Yeah, I think Dr. Nelson really kind of nailed it. If I could really add anything, I'll just kind of reiterate what I said earlier as far as like your voice. Your voice matters. I would love for us to do a nurse rebranding together in the sense of let's start thinking of nursing and the profession differently. We can keep our compassion, keep our our caring and our loving for our patients and what we do, but we have to rebrand and really understand the power that we have as a nurse. And so I feel like this is one of the things, the nurse shift change is really just a movement that really helps to facilitate that and to really show our power and just really understand that, those that are in elected positions, and I say the word again, elected positions, meaning we are the ones that elect them. Those that we serve, our patients that we serve, we elect them. And so we have a voice and we need to utilize their voice. They are regular people. So it's okay for us to call the offices, call our local offices, and then better yet, run for office. These are opportunities that, as I mentioned, we understand what is going on in the community and we can understand the needs of the community. And so who better than you? Run for office.
You know what? Thank you so much for bringing that up, because a point that I always say is, our voices really need to be heard at the legislative level. And lately I've been seeing a huge push for nurses to run for office, and we need to keep pushing that, because to your point, I mean, if they can put people in the office who has no healthcare background, I mean, that Health and Human Services role, that really needs to be one of us. If he could be there, any one of us could be there, right? I'm just saying. I mean, right, Dr. Roman, you're laughing, but right,
Absolutely.
we really should be running for office. And don't forget, there are so everyone looks at every 4 year the presidential election, but we forget about the midterms. The midterms is a time where we need to get out there and make sure that we are voting those certain people out of certain roles, right? So that, because we have to take back over the House and the Senate. So because that's where we get the power. And again, and if you are as passionate about this as we are, you should be getting out there and running for office, finding out who your local officials are, call your commissioner's office, see what you can do. How can you get involved? There's Healing Politics. There's so many others. Look at the episode with Dr. Sharon Goldfarb. She was running down like all of the ways nurses can get involved. And Dr. Roman, I'll finish with you. Please share your perspective on everything that was said, why the nurses need to really understand that this is a movement, this is a call to action, like Dr. Nelson said. What can we do?
So I know we talk about, we need nurses in office. We need nurses to vote, period. So yes. Dr. Goldfarb mentioned, and I don't remember the exact statistic, but it was just mind-blowing, that about 60% of nurses did not vote. Out of 4 to 5 million nurses, over half of them did not vote. Forget running for office. They just need to say who they need to vote for. So as subject matter experts, we need to vote the right people in. We need to vote people who understand healthcare, and we need to vote for people that will actually listen to the experts at the bedside, caring for the patients of the U.S. Dr. Lender, you mentioned that we spend so much money on healthcare, but our outcomes are nowhere near as good as we think they are for the amount of money we spend in healthcare. So the call to action is vote, get involved, contact your representatives, look at what's on the docket, look to see what people are voting for. right? And one resource that's come up time and time again from different speakers, and we mentioned at the podcast, is the 5Calls app or website. They have an app and the website, and they help digest a lot of what's going on. So depending on what your passion is, if you're in environmental, if you're in the LGBTQ space, if you're in marginalized communities, whatever your passion is or your community that you're supporting, you can go to resources that have already digested a lot of the information. Because right now it's chaos. We have so much going on, so much on the news. You have, contradictory information flying from everywhere. It's overwhelming and it's stunning. It's stunting us from where we're at. We don't know where to look. We don't know what to do. So we have to pretty much figure out and channel in and focus on specific areas that we can make a difference and that we can impact. And with as many nurses as there are and allies supporting nursing and supporting healthcare, we should be able to move mountains by getting this collective voice and looking at the core values of what we talk about with Nurses Shift Change. We're talking about humanity, ethics, science, social advocacy, unity, and empowerment. But until we have a fundamental understanding of the undoing that's happening now and the damage that will follow us for generations if we don't course correct, we're going to be stuck. So we really need to get engaged. We need to understand what's happening. And we do that with curiosity. We do that by looking at our nursing organizations, looking at either the white papers, the policy statements, look at the move and the call for actions for your specific nursing organizations. With the Nurse Shift Change, you can see what the resources we're putting out to help support nurses who don't know what power they have or how to engage that power.
Thank you for bringing it home for us. I mean, that's exactly what you did. You really summed it up nicely. I mean, more than that, you knocked it out of the park, I have to say, because this is what it's about. It's about knowing where to go, knowing your resources, and understanding all of the undoing that's taking place right now. Like, again, I don't know if we're really paying attention. And sometimes we don't think about it until it really starts hitting our bottom line. But we need to really be more involved. So I have to thank all of you. And something that you said, Dr. Harris, is that we have to start looking at things differently. And we do. And I can appreciate how you said that, because, and you guys may know this by now. For me, how we start looking at it differently is by putting ourselves in certain rooms, right? Whether it's politically, whether it's networking, and, like the movement, the rally is going to be on May 24th. And Dr. Nelson, you're in Georgia. Dr. Harris, you're in Alabama, right? And Dr. Roman, you're in Florida. So we are collectively, I'm in New Jersey, Dr. McCamey's in the DMV area, and we are collectively really looking for nurses to come out and really support the movement. And you're not only supporting the movement, you're supporting yourselves. And sometimes you may not even recognize that, because there's so much happening that we may not be paying attention to. And if we continue to just stay in our silos, right, we're going to miss an entire opportunity, and all of these things are going to be unraveling, which is going to contribute to our emotional, our moral distress, our emotional exhaustion. And then again, just the unraveling of healthcare as we know it. It's already not the best, right? To your point, Doctor, it's already a situation where we have the highest expenditures. We already don't have the greatest outcomes. And what's happening right now, right in front of our face, is it's like, it's almost embarrassing what's happening with our country right now. So we're asking you to stand with us. We're asking you to stand with us, help us to shift change for you. And to the point of what I mentioned, you, Dr. Harris, when you said, start thinking about things differently, we do, right? Start thinking about what can you do outside of healthcare, right? Something that, an event that I'm hosting, the Health and Wealth Expo, the Live Summit, that's about entrepreneurship, right? That's about how can I help my community differently, right? Start your own business, because we don't know what's happening with healthcare right now, right? And then be a part of networking, be a part of movements like the Nurse Shift Change. Head over to nurseshiftchange.com. We have a website. You can sign up, you can volunteer. You could join us on May 15th and 16th at the Health and Wealth Expo Live Summit. You can head over to healthandwealthexpolive.com to join us for those 2 days. Or, like I said, join us at the rally, May 24th, and find out when you sign up on nurseshifchange.com, you'll be able to see how you can sign up for your state so that you can start helping us with this movement. There'll be more to come. I truly want to know if you have any last words for those who are watching, any last words from any of you. I'm sure you do. So go ahead and take it away. Go right ahead. Dr. Roman, I'll say you.
So my charge here, if you're in a state that feels like you're in a safe space, don't get comfortable. Do not get comfortable. Look at what's going on in other states. We have a lot of copycat legislation that's bouncing from state to state. You see it happen in the South. It kind of spreads throughout. Don't get comfortable. We need to support each other across state lines and globally. We need to be the voice and the change that we expect to see. And just, your voice matters. Don't wait for someone else to speak up for you. And that's the only thing I can say, because if we are silent to what you said, Dr. Lendra, it's not that nothing's going to happen. Something that we don't want will happen. And that's where we're at.
Dr. Harris.
I really echo and say, be the change and understand that no effort is too small. So even, if you call your legislator, if you take some or encourage someone to register to vote and to vote, if you vote yourself and you have not voted, as Dr. Roman said, if you run for office or run for a board position, if you, do something outside of nursing, as you said, Dr. Lendra. So be the change, and anything you do, nothing you do is too small.
Bring it home for us, Dr. Nelson.
I want to extend something that Dr. Roman said. If you don't stand, you don't join us, you don't lift your voice, you don't hold people accountable, you don't educate yourself, you don't jump in, you're complicit. It's that simple. You're not part of the solution. You're giving oxygen to the problem. This is not the time to sit out, because we are all going to be touched. No one is safe, and I mean no one. So it's the time to join us. And don't just join us, bring others along. Like I said, this is your civil rights movement. Maybe it takes a little bit of pain. Just like during the civil rights movement, when we couldn't get on the bus and we walked for as long as it took. It is now time to stand, march, and do what we do best, which is to save lives. I'm going to run for office. Not only am I going to run for office, I'm going to win. Period. And I invite everybody else to have that level of focus and determination. You can do it. You must do it. This is why we exist. Nurses, allied health, lay people, everyone out there, because the one thing that you cannot live without is your health. It is the core of everything. This is not banking. This is not point. This is not transportation. This is the core of our society. So join us. We're not going to stop. We're going to do it whether you join us or not. But like our mothers, all of our mothers tell us, many hands make light work. We can go so much faster, stronger, and farther if we do it together. Thank you, Dr. Lendra.
Thank you. You got me wanting to run for office now. Listen,
Run, Dr. Lendra, run.
Listen.
Win, Dr. Lendra, win.
Yes. Also, I'm encouraged and I am empowered. Listen, you got my vote. I'm just going to say that. You definitely have my vote. Listen, thank you all so much for tuning in. You will definitely be able to watch this recording on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, the Nurses with Voices YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for sharing your perspective for this important movement. This very, very crucial movement that we're doing. It's so essential. Head over to nurseshifttchange.com. Take a look at our website, see how you can be involved. We are looking forward to seeing you on May 24th. Thank you guys so much for joining and have a good time. You guys stick around. I'm just going to, close out now.
Bye.